The Fort Erie Podcast with Brent Jones. Brent Jones starts now.
Hey, that's me. I'm Brent Jones. Welcome to the Fort Erie Podcast. Back by popular demand, we're going to be playing Fort Erie Trivia today. Two local callers will be going head-to-head to compete for supremacy on knowledge of our great town, and the winner will take home some free pizza. So that's coming up. Also, Ashley Gibson will be joining me, local family law and real estate lawyer, partner in Gibson and Reitboeck. Ashley is returning to the show today, and I'm going to split my chat with Ashley into two parts where there was sort of a natural pause in our conversation. The first half of our chat will be coming up shortly. The second half will be later on in the episode. Now, Canada Day is coming up this weekend, this long holiday weekend. I'm going to give you a full rundown today in this episode about everything going on around our town, everything you need to know. And on the topic of Canada Day, let me kick off episode 58 today by playing a very famous commercial.
Hey.
Now, that was just the first couple of seconds. Do you know what it is? I'll give you a hint. This commercial came out 23 years ago. Here's a bit more.
I'm not a lumberjack or a fur trader.
You recognize it, right? That's the famous I Am Canadian commercial from Molson. Here, let me just play the whole thing without interrupting.
Hey, I'm not a lumberjack or a fur trader. And I don't live in an igloo or eat blubber or own a dog sled. And I don't know Jimmy, Sally, or Susie from Canada, although I'm certain they're really, really nice. I have a prime minister, not a president. I speak English and French, not American. And I pronounce it about, not a boot. I can proudly sew my country's flag on my backpack. I believe in peacekeeping, not policing. Diversity, not assimilation. And that the beaver is a truly proud and noble animal. A toque is a hat. A Chesterfield is a coach. And it is pronounced Zed, not Z-Z. Canada is the second largest landmass, the first nation in hockey, and the best part of North America. My name is Joe, and I am Canadian. Thank you.
I am Canadian. You're welcome, sir. I think I speak for all of us when I say this commercial is still impactful today. I don't know if it's a sense of nostalgia, but when I go through the YouTube comments, even the recent comments on this video, people think of this commercial very fondly. And I was trying to give it some thought over the last couple of days. You know, I was thinking about this commercial. I looked it up. I was trying to think, why did this commercial become as popular as it was? And I think I have the answer. I think it hit me. This commercial back in the year 2000, March of 2000, did something that commercials today just simply don't do. Whether we're talking about TV commercials, radio commercials, ad spots and podcasts, YouTube videos, all the ads that we see forgot to do one thing that this commercial got right. This commercial, this I Am Canadian Molson commercial, focuses on things that unite us. Things that generally we as Canadians agree upon. It takes no political position. It doesn't focus on the woes of any particular segment of society. It makes no attempt to divide us into different social groups. It runs through a lot of silly examples, sure, but they're silly things that most Canadians agree on. And that agreement is built on a simple premise that we are one Canada, we are one united nation, that we have more in common with our fellow Canadians than we disagree on. Let's say lines like, I believe in peacekeeping, not policing. The beaver is a truly noble animal. We're the world's second largest landmass and First Nation in hockey. I bring this up because if you were to hop on Twitter, and this is not a surprise to anybody, but if you were to hop on Twitter right now, or turn on the news, or listen to our politicians, or pay attention to your drunk uncle ramble at the family barbecue this weekend, you might actually start to believe that we as Canadians are more divided right now than we've ever been. This is the message we keep hearing. And look, I get there are hot button issues. I understand that, I do. But in general, I just don't think it's true. We are not a nation without faults. We certainly don't have a perfect history free of blemishes. And it's so easy, I feel like, now that we all walk around with a computer in our pocket, it's so easy to get sucked into the political vortex online. Every issue, no matter how complicated, no matter how nuanced it might be, gets turned into a two-sided issue. It's always got to be one side or the other. It's us versus them. It's the good guys versus the bad guys. It's the left versus the right. Now, I said in the last episode 57, I said in my monologue at the start, that, and I'll say it again right now, I don't like to get political, not just on this show, but in general. Like, as a matter of fact, when I was a kid, like I'm 38, okay, so 30 plus years ago, it was considered extremely rude to talk about politics with other people, for adults to do it, let's say, because kids had no interest. Kids now, that they're active on social media, that they have smartphones, seem to be very invested in politics. When I was a kid, politics didn't really matter to kids. It was quite rude to ask an adult who they voted for. It was rude for adults to ask other adults who they voted for. Now people lead with it. It's right in their social media bios. You can't go 2 minutes without somebody somewhere, whether it's in person or online, with a megaphone to start shouting about their politics, especially on a federal level. It's as if all the answers to every one of Canada's problems rests with our federal leaders. Which leader, by the way? Have you picked sides already? Is it the patronizing high school drama teacher who wears stupid socks? Or is it the career politician that oddly resembles a Keebler elf? Like, which one of these two people, which one of these two men do you think is really on a mission to unite us? If you guessed either of them, you're absolutely out of your mind. Go touch grass, as the kids would say. Because the real truth of it, Fort Erie, this is me on my soapbox, by the way, the real truth of it is that we are Canada. You, dear listener, me, the kids we're raising, the communities we live in, we're the people. We have the power, and we shape the future of what Canada is going to look like. So this Canada Day, this July 1st, please, I'm asking you, remember that there is more that unites us with our neighbors than divides us. And not that long ago in history, we celebrated our similarities. We celebrated the things we had in common, not focused on our differences. Maybe it's time we take a page out of Joe's book.
My name is Joe, and
So my name is Brent, I am Canadian, and if you feel the same, I hope to see your glowing hearts out there this weekend, out and about, or oot in a boot, celebrating our country.
It's Fort Erie's answering machine, the Byrd Box.
This is the voicemail box set up for the town of Fort Erie, for the Fort Erie podcast. You can call in 24 hours a day and squawk about anything you like, and then I play your messages right here on the show. It's called the Byrd Box because the last four digits, spell BYRD, 289-599-2973. Call anytime you'd like. Popular topic, last couple of episodes, folks have been calling in, nominating the worst roads in Fort Erie, the ones with the biggest craters, potholes, the ones in most need of repair. I got a message here from a gentleman who actually has 3 nominations around town, 3 roads that he thinks are in terrible condition. Have a listen.
Yes, good morning. I just want to give my input on the worst road in the Fort Erie area. Very first and the worst road in Fort Erie is Alfred Street. Alfred runs south from Garrison down to Albany. It's the Chrysler dealerships on the southeast corner. And Alfred is absolutely the worst. It's like driving on the surface of the moon.
Yeah, I'm going to pause this message there. I'll keep playing it in a sec. What he said is right. Alfred is a pretty awful street. Driving on the surface of the moon, that's kind of funny. But I don't know if it's the worst. His next suggestion in this message is actually the road that I think is the worst in Fort Erie. Let's keep going.
Second would be Burleigh Road, south of Dominion, all the way down to Thunder Bay. It's a really rough road.
Yeah, it's so the section, he's talking about Burleigh Road, south of Dominion through to Thunder Bay, because the part from Dominion north to Garrison is not too bad. I drive that road quite a bit, but the part going south of Dominion to Thunder Bay is atrocious. It is not only terribly broken up, and by the way, the town just came down and packed some asphalt into that road, and it did nothing to help. It is still like he used surface of the moon. I use washboard. It's like driving along a washboard. It is awful. But the other thing that's truly awful about that stretch of Burleigh Road is how narrow that road is. It's difficult sometimes for 2 vehicles to even safely pass each other. If you add like a jogger or a cyclist or somebody pushing a baby stroller at the side of the road, forget about it. Like one of the 2 vehicles has to stop, let the other one go by, and then continue on their way. And then his third suggestion here.
And I guess my third one that comes to mind is King between Garrison and Albany. In fact, that intersection at Albany and King Street is just a mess. It's really rough.
Yeah, I think that's fair. King Street is pretty messed up. Maybe not quite as bad as his first 2 suggestions, Alfred and Burleigh, but it's up there. It definitely needs repair. If you want to get your 2 cents in on the Byrd Box Fort Erie, give a call. Let me know, what do you think is the worst road in Fort Erie? Now, about a week ago, I put up a post on social media asking folks around town about their experiences buying groceries. It's no secret that inflation has hit all of us in various ways, but there might be nowhere where it's more obvious than when you walk into, say, Sobeys or The Independent, or you go in, you start looking at the prices of these groceries, and you remember, like, wasn't it just a year ago or 2 years ago that items were, this specific item was half as much as it is today? So I got a few notes in the comments here. And by the way, these folks should have called into the Byrd Box, but they wrote a comment instead. Linda said, I've recently just discovered a box of minute rice is now $11.50 a box. It used to be like $4. Yeah, I mean, a box of minute rice at $11.50. Get a grip. Whoever is setting these prices at the grocery store, that is insanity. Somebody named Barbara says, today in Sobeys, chicken with rice soup, $3 plus a can. Don't think so. Now, it depends. In defense of this one, it depends on what kind of can. If we're talking about one of those, big cans of like chunky soup that has like chicken and rice in it, $3 is not egregious. If we're talking about one of those little cans of Campbell's soup, like you make chicken noodle or chicken and rice when you're sick, if that is over $3 a can now, that is criminal insanity. I don't get it. And then we did have somebody call into the Byrd Box to talk about some of the groceries that they've been keeping an eye on. Have a listen.
Talk about the price of food. First of all, I always bought the ribeye steaks between $7 and $9. Now the price of one average steak is over $15.
Mm-hmm.
The Gailey butter I used to buy for $4.59 is now $7.49 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the Black Diamond cheese bar, 400 grams, I used to pay $4.99. Now it is $10.49. So no more cheese or steak for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too, because I feel like vegans get very smug about all the meat and dairy when those prices go up. But if you look, like somebody else reached out to me by direct message, they sent me a message and said they just bought a butternut squash for like $12 or $13 or something like that. Like there were no food items that are safe right now. Everything is so incredibly expensive. It's no wonder that in previous episodes I have on somebody like Ann Waters, the Salvation Army, talking about their food bank being empty. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, how much of this, with grocery prices as high as they are, how much of it can be blamed on inflation, truly blamed on inflation, truly blamed on rising fuel costs, let's say, and then how much of it is corporate greed? And I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. It just seems odd to me that so many of these big, say, grocery store chains, these corporations are posting these massive profits at times where people can't feed themselves. It is so bizarre to me. But anyway, if you want to comment on either of these items, condition of our roads, grocery prices, you're welcome to call the Byrd Box for that. You can call for any other reason, something you saw around town, something else we talked about on this show, 289-599-2973.
Have something you want to squawk about? Let the whole town know what's on your mind. Call the Byrd Box at 289-599-2973. That's 289-599-BYRD.
All right, I'm joined on the phone now by Ashley Gibson. Ashley, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for chatting with me. I'm actually a little surprised you came back on the Fort Erie podcast after the show art debacle last time around, if you recall.
Anytime. It's hard to scare me away.
Well, I appreciate that, because and for the benefit of listeners who maybe don't remember, I used to do like a different graphic for every episode. And when we talked on Zoom, but I said I was only going to use the audio for the show. And then, of course, I did like a little screen capture of you for the show art. And I think you just come back from the gym or something, hadn't you?
Yeah.
I thought it looked like this is a hardworking, dedicated person. That's what I took from that photo.
You're kind, Brent.
Well, I mean, fitness is a big part of your life, isn't it?
Well, it's funny that you've asked that. It is. I'm kind of on the injury reserve right now.
Oh no! What happened?
I have a labral tear in my hip, and then another tear in another part of my hip, and tendinosis. It's basically I just have a really bad hip. So I'm actually waiting to see a surgeon to see what needs to be done to fix that.
Really? Now you were a competitive dancer for most of your life, right? Is that where some of these injuries stem from, or
Yeah, they think that's exactly what caused it.
it's like wear and tear? Is that those injuries are pretty common for dancers then, I guess?
Yeah, you know what? The hip, especially in ballet, plays a huge role. You're asking it to rotate and twist and turn ways that it shouldn't, and having your leg above your head often. So I'm not surprised.
I can't say I've ever had my leg above my head, but it's something I aspire to do, maybe before my 40th birthday, you know?
Well, I can tell you that you should start working on it before that, because in my experience, not much gets better after your 40th birthday. You start to crumble, your body.
Yeah, well, as you know, my wife and I have a 1-year-old, and every time I'm kind of picking her up or putting her down, I always think this is a young man's game, you know? We really should have started a family in our 20s, not in our late 30s, you know?
Yeah, you know what? I'm really glad that I did do that in my late 20s and early 30s.
Yeah. Well, because you've got a teenager now, right?
Yeah, Cameron's 14.
That is wild. But speaking of birthdays, I think June was an exciting month for you. You just had a birthday, right?
I did, yeah. 28 again.
28 again, good. And I might have stopped by your office with a couple of goodies there for the staff. I don't know if you guys were having a little birthday party or not. And one thing I've always noticed about your office is that the door is locked pretty well all the time, 24 hours a day. That's true of some lawyers' offices, and some it's not. Do you guys, like, you literally have to keep the doors locked to keep like crazy people out? Like what do you guys ever have people at the door where you go, nah, we're not opening up for that person, or what?
Yeah, well, it started in COVID with pandemic-related policies of only having one person in the waiting room at a time. And if you remember our old space, we shared space with 2 other firms.
Right.
So we did that to control the public health part of it. And then in addition to me being a real estate lawyer, I'm a family lawyer, and I'm a lawyer through the Office of the Children's Lawyer. So I have to often take really difficult positions that sometimes people in town don't like, and they can get quite upset with me. So we just decided that it was best to keep that policy going. And in the new space, as you know, the space, there's no barricade between staff and the waiting room. It's more of an open space. So we just decided to keep the doors locked. But I do appreciate the cookies, Brent. I'll answer the door for cookies any day.
That's the secret, folks. If you want to get into the Gibson Reitboeck office, make sure you show up with cookies or some other type of baked good. Now let's actually talk about the new location, because you moved. The last time you were on the Fort Erie podcast, you were at the old police station on Thompson Road. That's where you were set up. Now you're at 170 Central Avenue, which is, funny enough, the office I used to be in, the old Remax office. What prompted the move?
Well, we were expanding, and again, we were sharing space with 2 other firms, and it was just way too crowded, and we were renting. So Anthony and I decided that we wanted to have our own building, and then, as luck would have it, yours was up for sale. So we jumped at the opportunity, and it was great. It was nicely renovated, I think, in 2018, and set up perfectly for us. So the stars kind of aligned, and we jumped on it.
Yeah, I actually miss that old location sometimes. I used to joke that my office was basically the supply closet at the back of the building there. Does anybody use that office, or is it just storage?
It's a supply closet, like it's meant to be.
It was more fun when there was a realtor in there, I feel like. But now I saw, and at the time we're talking, is it 15 years ago today, you were called to the bar. Is that right?
That's true.
That's true. So 15 years, how did, let's say the first 15 years of your career, how was it maybe similar to what you expected? How did it end up being different?
I think that I got more of an education in life in the first 6 months of practicing law than I did in the 8 years in post-secondary school preparing to practice law.
Yeah, because you must see some pretty wild stuff, I would think, especially dealing with family law. I mean, it's some of those circumstances I don't imagine any textbook can prepare you for.
No, and I mean, it really shows you how naive and how privileged we are, so many of us, that I was. One of my first cases, there was some drugs involved. It was a parenting case, and one parent was using drugs. And in court, I referred to the drug that the parent was using as crack cocaine. And the lawyer on the other side was an experienced litigator, so I was nervous. And he stood up and he objected and said, "No, Your Honor, my client doesn't use crack cocaine. It's just cocaine." And my response was, "I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't know there was a difference." So, the judge handled it really well. It was Justice Martin, and he said, "Well, that's still not good."
I mean, that almost sounds like an Onion headline, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's stuff like that. It happens every day, and you see things that you never thought that are brand new. It's brand new things every day, and it's been 15 years, and I think that I can say that at least once a week there's something brand new.
Wow. Well, aside from obviously, the work you do in family law, I know that you like to get involved in a number of different things to support folks in the community. One of those things we talked about beforehand was the community crew. Do you want to talk to listeners a little bit about that? What's the community crew all about? What do they do?
So this organization, first of all, it's completely fundraising based. They don't have any government funding. But what they do is they provide lunches for kids in schools who come to school without a lunch. This is the most amazing charity, in my opinion. It goes to the root of kind of my political manifesto. How to save the world is to focus on children. I mentioned earlier I work for the Office of the Children's Lawyer, and that work has highlighted the inequities in society. And some of the kids that I represent, you can just tell that, they're not doing well in school, but they go to school and they haven't had breakfast and they don't have a lunch, and there's food insecurity and clothing insecurity and housing instability. And then because of all of those problems, these kids can't perform academically in school, and they might be the best and the brightest, but they're missing out on opportunities because the poor little things are starving.
Right.
So this charity it levels the playing field and gives these kids a chance to excel.
So I looked up the community crew online. It looks like they're based out of St. Catharines, but are they supporting students right across Niagara, including the town of Fort Erie as well?
Yes, they are.
They are? Okay. And do you know, what is the best way to support the community crew if somebody wanted to get involved? I assume they take monetary donations, obviously, but are there other ways that people could support that?
We actually just attended their big gala. They have a luncheon gala every June. That was June 1st.
Okay.
And then this year, the Rebel Charity Ball, the community crew was selected as the charity. So they've had a couple of big ones this year. And you can contact them directly, make donations. I know I've done that, and I've tried to spread the word to some other businesses to do the same thing. Their executive director, Stephen Cooper, is a local guy, Fort Erie born and raised, and he is so hardworking and dedicated to this. So probably the best way would be to hook up with Coop, and he could give people the information of exactly how you can help.
Fort Erie Job Leads.
I'm going to get to more of my chat with Ashley Gibson a little bit later in the show. Ashley and I will be discussing technology and how that impacts local businesses and the work that she does as a lawyer with Gibson and Reitboeck. But for right now, let's get into some Fort Erie job leads. If you are on the hunt for a new job, I have a few leads that might help to steer you in the right direction. First and foremost, Pilot Company is looking to hire part-time cashiers, and just doing the tiniest bit of digging, it looks to me like Pilot Company is the parent company for the Flying J Travel Center just off of Gilmore. So my best guess is that this position is a part-time cashier working at the gas bar there. The Fort Erie SPCA is looking to hire a full-time veterinary technician. The pay ranges from $21 to $25 an hour. I assume that's based off of experience. It's a full-time position, and there are some benefits included. Rizzo's House of Parm in Crystal Beach is looking to hire a full-time permanent server. The pay starts at $16 an hour, plus overtime, plus tips, plus some benefits. Paramed is looking to hire personal support workers to do in-home care in and around Fort Erie. There's a $500 sign-on bonus for qualified candidates. If you are a PSW, both Maple Park Lodge and Crescent Park Lodge are also hiring. Canusa Logistics here in town, they're looking to hire full-time and part-time release clerks. I take that to be an administrative position working at a customs brokerage. And Employment Professionals Canada, that's a recruiting firm. They're advertising for a technician filler. I don't know what the technician part of that job title is referring to. Reading through the job description, it essentially sounds like it's a shipping and receiving position, pick and pack, that type of thing. If you want to get more information or you want to apply, you can call 905-684-8222.
Fun and games on the Fort Erie Podcast.
All right, Fort Erie, we're about to do it again. Another epic round of Fort Erie trivia. I've got 2 callers live, ready to go head to head. Sarah, let's start with you. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. How long have you lived in Fort Erie?
Most of my life. I grew up in Ridgeway, and then I moved into Fort Erie about 5 years ago.
Okay, well, for the purposes of this game, I'll go through the rules in a second, but Ridgeway is part of the town of Fort Erie, so that sounds good. Our second caller is Martha. Martha, how's the day going?
Very well, thank you.
Good.
How
And
about you?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to play some trivia. Have you lived in Fort Erie for a long time yourself?
I was born here, and I grew up in Swan Hill. Shortly after I was born, my family moved there, and then we came back when I was just about to enter high school. So I went to high school here, and I've lived here ever since.
Okay, so it sounds like you both have a lot of experience. Good luck to both of you. Let me just run through the rules here. You're going to take turns answering trivia questions about Fort Erie, and whenever I say Fort Erie, I'm referring to our entire town, which includes Ridgeway, Crystal Beach, and Stevensville. Nobody can help you answer these questions. So no Googling, no cheating, no taking hours to respond. You got to think fast. You got to do this on your own. And I get the final say on whether your answer is right or wrong. Whoever gets to 3 correct answers first after an equal number of turns will be our winner, and you will get free pizza on me. Sarah, do you know what we're doing? Are you ready?
I'm ready. I know.
Okay. Sarah, first question goes to you. Here we go. As of what date will Douglas Memorial's Hospital Urgent Care begin closing overnight?
Shoot, I just read this online too.
So I'm going to take that as a wrong answer. So the answer is July the 5th. Martha, over to you. Spell Burleigh as in Burleigh Road.
Burleigh.
Martha's on the board. That's a point to Martha. Okay, over to you, Sarah. On what street would you find the Little Red Coffee Shop?
Birdie Street.
I'm sorry. The correct answer was Queen Street. Martha, what is the mascot of Greater Fort Erie Secondary School?
The Griffin.
The Griffin. That's 2 points for Martha. Sarah, we got to get you on the board here. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, how many new burrito fast food chains have opened in Fort Erie just this year?
3.
That is correct. Correct. All right, you're on the board, Sarah. Here we go. Martha, in what year was construction of the Fort Erie Leisureplex completed?
I think 1992.
So close. 1996. You were close. Sarah, what exit number is Gilmore Road from the QEW?
54.
54. 5. You were not even close on that one, but that's okay. Martha, what is the name of Fort Erie's junior hockey league team?
The Meteors. Fort Erie Meteors.
The Meteors, that's what she said?
Yeah.
Sarah already knows. Martha, you are the winner. Congratulations. The first of 3 points in this round of Fort Erie trivia. Hang on. I'm going to tell you how to collect your prize. And Sarah, thank you for playing. Really appreciate your time.
Anytime. Thank you.
Okay, and for everybody listening, if you want to play an upcoming round of Fort Erie trivia, leave a message on the Byrd Box 289-599-2973, and you can win some free pizza on me.
The FortEriePodcast.com.
Is there maybe a side to technology where, I don't want to say it's being misused necessarily, but I would imagine in law you get a lot of people that either love Google or they go to www.imrightandyourwrong.com and they know the law better than you do by the time they show up at your office. Does that happen?
I would say that happens more often in family law than real estate, but all the time. People will come with a problem and I'll give them my opinion or my advice. And then they'll say, well, I Googled it and Google said this, or, well, when my friend got divorced, he only had to pay $500 a month. And why am I having to pay $4,000 a month in spousal support? So there, you deal with a lot of that. And the introduction of Chat GPT, I think, is going to be incredibly dangerous.
Yeah. Now, would you ever do that as a lawyer? Would you use Chat GPT to write your closing remarks?
No.
I'm sure it's been done. I'm sure some lawyer somewhere in North America at this point has done it. Like, just jump on Chat GPT and go, write my closing remarks. I don't know. I mean, it could happen, I guess, right?
100%. I'm kind of in our group of lawyer friends. I'm not great with technology, and they all make fun of me. I held onto my paper calendar for years until I basically got shamed into upgrading to an iPhone and using the calendar. So I can do that now. I can enter my own docket. But I had a conversation with a friend, and I'm not going to name names, but he was telling me about Chat GPT, and he's like, just try it. Like, it'll write letters for you. You have to give it the right information. It's great. I started just entering silly questions and seeing what it would come up with. And the one thing I said is, my friend said that you're an excellent letter writer and I can just become a lazy lawyer. And then it popped up with this huge warning how it's not a replacement. So it was funny. I probably just could learn how to use it better. But also there was a case, I think it was where a lawyer had actually drafted court documents with ChatGPT, and then they proved that artificial intelligence had fabricated cases that made up facts and quoted them, and the cases didn't actually exist.
Well, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, right? As the saying goes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Technology is an interesting thing. There's so many ways it helps us. My wife and I talk about this all the time. Obviously, her business, she's heavily involved in tech and social media. And there's a beautiful upside to that in a lot of respects, but then there's sort of the dark underbelly too. And I think one of the places where we see that come out is in Google reviews, online reviews, things people have to say about businesses. It's, the old adage is if somebody has something negative to say, they'll tell 10 people. Somebody with something positive to say only tells one. But I feel like the moment somebody feels the most minor grievance, it's like they can't wait to jump on Google to write something nasty about a local business or that type of thing. Is that is that one of those things that ever keeps you up at night? Like, you get a bad Google review where you did the right thing, and does that get under your skin, or do you just kind of take that as par for the course?
So I would say 15 years ago, that absolutely got under my skin, and I would lose sleep. And I actually have a couple friends who thought they were kind of doing me a solid, and they were monitoring them, and they would get into wars with these people. And I finally just accepted that, my job's hard. There's times when you win, times when you lose, and you're at the whim of a judge, how the evidence goes in, and sometimes your client's evidence is just horrible. And sometimes, no matter how many times you tell someone we can't win or this is what's going to happen, they want to try because they think the judge will just forget about the law and like them better.
Yeah.
And, like you said, Brent, only angry people review you, and it's often not your fault. And I don't know what your rules are, but the Law Society rules, you cannot respond because you can't publicly admit you represent someone because of privilege, and you can't engage in that at all. So you can't defend yourself.
Right.
But now I absolutely do not lose sleep over Google reviews.
Well, the part that I find humorous is I mentioned stopping by your office the other day, but it's no secret that a lot of my clients are also your clients. We work, it's a disproportionate number of my clients in real estate, let's say, end up going to work with you in part because, you're on my list of lawyers that I recommend in town. And I make a habit of not recommending people to people that I wouldn't want to work with myself. Right. And when I stop by your office, you're always busy. Like, there's constantly foot traffic. I thought the other day when I stopped by, it looked like Paige was ready to tear her hair out because it was just like people constantly flowing in and out of that building. And so I think it's funny that people will go online and they'll put so much stock into reading one review or two reviews of a business and make up their mind about that business, knowing full well that it's like, yeah, but what about the other 1,000 people that they've served that didn't write a review? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. Happy people don't write a review, and people who are busy and utilize services and trust the service provider that they're using generally don't have time to review. So, you can do 6,000 cases brilliantly and have success, and have one case that goes against you. And that's the case you're going to get the review on. And in this business, if you let that bother you, you'd be locked up in the psych ward.
I wish sometimes that I had that kind of like Zen mentality. So I feel like things do sometimes get me riled up when they shouldn't. And maybe it's just going to take another 15 years in my career, let's say, for me to get to that point too.
Brent, as you pointed out the other day, I am older than you, and I can tell you it takes a lot of experience and a lot of therapy to get to where I am.
Okay. Well, I'll start on therapy first thing tomorrow for sure. And for the benefit of listener, you're not that much older than me. Let's we're on the same page. We grew up same generation, let's say.
28.
What was that?
I said you're 24, I'm 28.
24 and 28. That sounds exactly right. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. For folks who maybe want to learn more about what you and your partner do at Gibson Reitboeck, how should they follow you? How should they get in touch?
Well, we have a website that outlines all of our services. We are on Facebook and Instagram. And from time to time, we're really good about posting things on our Instagram and Facebook accounts, but then we go long periods of time where we're just not very good. We had an articling student which we started as just a summer student and articled with us. And Simone was with us for 4 years. And she was wonderful because she's young. She did all kinds of Instagram posts, Facebook posts. And, Anthony and I do our best to try to put out some blogs and some informational posts. But, we're both really busy lawyers, and we both have children and are involved in our communities. So I will say that our social media, we have kind of not really kept up on that.
It's funny you say that, because I was going to say I thought you guys have been doing a great job. Especially after the move, you guys got the branding, the color scheme down. I've liked a lot of the content you put out on Instagram. I recognize that you're not going to be able to post 6 times a day. That's just not the way a busy law office works. But I think for doing it in-house, I think you guys are doing a good job.
Oh, well, thank you.
Is there anything else you want to share with listeners?
I think it's important that you use service providers that are from the town. And that's kind of my plug. I'm a Fort Erie girl, born and raised, and I'm not going anywhere. So I'm happy to serve the community that raised me.
Community events coming up in Fort Erie.
If you're going to be sticking around town this holiday long weekend and you're looking for something to do, don't worry, Fort Erie, I've got you covered. There's going to be lots going on. I'll start by mentioning the Friday, June 30th. That's your last chance to head to Fort Erie Public Library and pick up an adult lit kit. That's the Centennial branch on Gilmore Road. They'll be open until 5 o'clock. And if you're asking, what's an adult lit kit? Well, basically, it's just a fun kit for adult readers. It's a box. There's a library book in it. There's some candy, some activity sheets. If that sounds like your cup of tea, be sure to head to the library. Then later that evening, Friday, June 30th, you can catch the Saffron Sea. They'll be performing live at Brimstone Brewing Company in Ridgeway. The music starts at 7. Admission is free. And assuming that night you don't have, say, too many adult beverages at Brimstone Brewing, you can get up nice and early the next morning, Saturday, July 1st, because at 7 a.m., the Yoga Dome on Ridgemount Road will be hosting meditation on the water. If you're wondering what to have for lunch on Saturday, if you're looking for something to eat, consider stopping by Sobeys for a barbecue fundraiser. That's in support of Greater Fort Erie Youth Soccer Club, specifically the under-15 boys travel team. The barbecue will be going on from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m., and of course, you're not going to want to miss the Canada Day fireworks along the Niagara River that night, starting at 10 p.m. The best views generally are anywhere between the Old Fort and the Peace Bridge. If this fireworks show is anything like past years, I'd recommend getting there early to find a good parking spot. And don't forget that parts of Lakeshore will probably be closed. Expect crowds, that's for sure. But if fireworks aren't really your thing, you can also catch a live performance from Ryan Thomas that evening. He'll be performing at South Coast Cookhouse on July 1st until almost midnight. Then on Sunday, July 2nd, you can swing by the Ridgeway Legion for a performance from the Howling Horns. That runs from something like 4 until 8. And also on Sunday, July 2nd at 7 p.m., there will be a free concert at the Crystal Beach Park. The Epic Eagles cover band will be playing. Monday, July 3rd, Fort Erie's Fantastic Gymnastics is kicking off their 2023 summer camp. You can register your young ones online for that. They offer full days, half days, full weeks. Looks like they have all kinds of different scheduling options online. And also happening Monday, July 3rd, Fort Erie Racetrack is having their family day with activities for kids. The first races start at something like 1 o'clock. And there is just one more event that I want to highlight for you, Fort Erie. I'm going to tell you about it in just a moment. I'm going to give you the chance to come hang out with me in person. And it's happening later today, June 27th.
The Fort Erie Podcast.
And that was episode 58. Thanks for tuning in, Fort Erie. Thanks for listening. Have a safe and happy Canada Day, long weekend. Episode 59 will be on its way shortly. Subscribe to the Fort Erie Podcast on iTunes or Spotify or YouTube or wherever it is you get podcasts so you'll get a notification when episode 59 drops. Get your calls in on the Byrd Box, any topic, 24 hours a day, 289-599-2973. And if you need legal services, be sure to check out Gibson Reitboeck. You can check out their website, look them up on Google, real estate law, family law, corporate law. There's a whole lot they can offer you. I did mention just a moment ago that if you wanted to come out and hang out with me today, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to be sponsoring a free concert tonight. That's Tuesday, June 27, 2023 at the Fort Erie Racetrack. The Trip will be performing, which I believe, and it's awful that I sponsored this concert, and I don't know this for sure, but I believe they are a tragically hip cover band. Racing starts at 4:30. The music gets going around 7 o'clock, I believe, once races finish up. It should be a good time, rain or shine. There's free parking, free admission. I'm supposed to have a table set up near the Tiki Bar, I believe. Come find me, say hi. If I'm not there, I'll be somewhere else. I'll be giving out free Fort Erie podcast t-shirts as well as Buy with Brent beer koozies. Very convenient to be right next to the Tiki Bar, handing out beer koozies. If it does end up raining today, I believe the table I'm being given will just be moved inside where the band is playing. Time will tell, I guess. I've never sponsored one of these things before, so I guess I'll find out once I get there. But that's the show for today, Fort Erie. Thanks for listening. I'll talk with you again soon.
You've been listening to the Fort Erie Podcast with your host, Brent Jones. Never miss an episode. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or visit theforteriepodcast.com.